Why does media literacy matter for citizenship? Well, that's the civics question I want to ask today, and maybe give some answers too, because I consider it to be a civics question that's worth asking, because I'm a civics and government teacher at a small rural school in Illinois. And I do spend a lot of time reminding my kids, my students, that civics is not just about the Constitution test. It is about understanding things like political power and the rights that we possess and responsibilities we have as citizens, and then also the rules it takes to have a functioning self-government. And so the question today, why does media literacy matter for citizenship? Well, media literacy, well, it means being able to evaluate information that comes into us. Where did it come from? Who created it? What evidence supports it? What's being left out? And in what it comes down to is this news? Is it opinion? Is it advertising? Is it satire? Is it propaganda? Is it nothing but rumor? Can the claim that's being presented be checked somewhere that's reliable? And those questions matter because citizens make decisions based on information. We vote based on what we believe is happening. We argue about public policy. Public policy is a fancy way of saying, laws or things created by the government for the best of us, right? So, but public policy, whether it's based on what we think the facts are, we decide who to trust, what to share, what to challenge, and what to ignore. And so if the information is bad, the citizenship built on top of that information becomes a great deal weaker. That's not really a new problem. Sorry, the wind blew the door shut to my shop here. So anyway, this isn't a new problem, because in the 1790s, newspapers were openly partisan. I mean, they were oftentimes quite vicious, especially between John Adams and Thomas Jefferson, especially when they had their falling out. And the political fights between the Federalists and the Democratic Republicans weren't very polite academic debates. They were personal, they were emotional, and man, they were just chock full of accusations. And then we get to 1798. We have fears of a potential war with France. Congress, through the support of John Adams, passes the Alien and Sedition Acts. And the Sedition Act made it a crime to publish certain kinds of criticism against the government. And that controversy became one of the earliest American tests for free speech, and also freedom of the press, political criticism, and just government power. And so the question of information and citizenship has been with us from the very beginning. But as time goes on, the technology changes, but the problems that exist within civics, they all remain. And so when we get to the late 1800s, we had newspapers that competed fiercely for readers. You had sensational headlines and exaggerated stories that helped shape public opinion, especially during the Spanish-American War, that era of yellow journalism. And it became kind of a warning about what can happen when newspapers chase attention and outrage and sales more than just accuracy. Now, today, the challenge is different in scale and speed, because a false claim can travel across the country in literally seconds, minutes at most. If you have a misleading video, it can be shared before anyone checks the context. A fake quote can look real. An old photo can be presented as something new. You can have a headline that can be written to make people angry enough to click without reading carefully. They just need to scan the headlines and they have everything they need to know. Then when you add in artificial intelligence, now it can create images and audio and video that makes misinformation even harder to spot. And that doesn't mean really that citizens should trust nothing, because that's not media literacy. Media literacy is not cynicism, because cynicism says everyone is lying, so nothing matters. And media literacy would say, I should slow down. I should check the source. I should compare evidence and be careful before I believe or I share this. And that difference is really important. A republic needs citizens who are skeptical without becoming hopeless. If a republic really needs citizens who ask questions without falling for every conspiracy. It also needs citizens who understand that bias can exist without assuming that every source is fake. A republic also needs citizens who know the difference between a mistake, an opinion, a lie, and a verified fact. Media literacy, it also matters because misinformation does not affect national politics. Well, it doesn't only affect national politics, I guess I should say. That was kind of a slip up, but it can affect local communities as well. So like if you get a rumor about a school board or a misleading claim about property taxes perhaps, especially here in Illinois, right? You get a false accusation against a public official, a distorted story about a court case. You end up with a social media post that leaves out really important context. These things can damage trust. They can like inflame anger, and they can make it harder for communities to solve real problems. And this is why citizens need to create habits that orbit around careful thinking. Before sharing something, you should ask, who is the source? What is the evidence? Is another reliable source reporting the same thing? Is it designed mainly to inform me, persuade me, sell me something, or make me angry, just rage bait? You should also ask, am I reacting because it is true or because it confirms what I already wanted to believe? Now, that's in all seriousness here. Those questions don't solve every problem, but they can help. Because media literacy does not mean citizens will all agree. Obviously, they won't. People can look at the same facts and still disagree about policy and values, priorities, and solutions. And that's really kind of for the norm. It's normal in a republic. But disagreement works better when people are at least trying to argue from a position within reality. Without shared facts, public debate becomes almost impossible. Every election becomes suspicious. Every institution becomes corrupt. Every opponent is evil. Every rumor becomes evidence. And anytime you have a correction, it becomes part of the conspiracy. And that really is dangerous for self-government. Free speech gives citizens the right to speak and to publish and to criticize and to argue. Media literacy helps citizens use that responsibly, that freedom responsibly. Because in a republic, the goal is not simply to have more information. The goal is to have citizens who can judge information well enough to govern themselves. The goal, it goes back to the consent of the governed, right? Where the government only operates based on the will of the people. So then why does media literacy matter for citizenship? And I'm not talking about becoming a citizen. I'm talking about just being a good citizen, doing the right things as it leads to proper citizenship. Like you used to get graded for it on your kindergarten report card, right? Now, when it all comes down to it, it's all because citizens need reliable information to make responsible decisions. Because when we look misinformation, it weakens trust. And you have public outrage that can be manipulated. And you also have, it's because technology can spread falsehood faster than truth can catch up. It's also because self-government really depends on people who think before they share, and they question before they believe, and they care whether something is actually true. The real civics question is not whether citizens should be allowed to speak freely, because of course they should. The real question is whether we are willing to take responsibility for the information we consume and the information that we spread. And that's why media literacy matters for citizenship. And on this last day of June, I really thought it was a civics question that was worth asking. Thanks again for another long one here. My plan was to get this one out in about 4 minutes, but I got into that teacher long-windedness syndrome. So anywho, thanks a bunch. I really feel strongly about this one. So if you take the time and share with other folks that may need some clarification or to be enlightened, or anyway, it doesn't hurt to share this information. Thanks a lot for watching.